In the name of Almighty Allah, most merciful and most compassionate. My dear students, I hope you are all fine, doing good, and life has been treating you well. So, this is Assistant Professor Ahmad Tasal Hazraty, MIT Seoul, at Kabul Education University, which was affiliated with the Indiana University of the United States. My dear students, today we are going to talk about the new steps of the research proposal, which is remind from the last lesson. In the previous lesson, we discussed the first, second, and third step of the research proposal. Today, I'm going to talk about the step number 4, 5, 6, and 7. I hope you are ready for the lesson. The goal of today's lesson is, by the end of the lesson, the student will have able to apply and develop research proposal. Number 2, to write a proposal, a personal research proposal. And beside, we are going to help our students to identify, work, and assess on the different process of the research proposal. So, step number 4, process number 4 is methodology and method. The first thing that should be clear is, and it should be mentioned, that in some proposals, methodology is a separate part while method is a separate part. But we're allowed to bring it in one part. So in this format, we are bringing together the methodology and method. So in the research process, methodology is something totally different from the method, as you're already clear with, and we discussed it in the first and second chapter of the book. That methodology is the general principle which help us to guide our research, that we have qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methodology of the research, while method is the practical realization, or in the research process, method is called instrument or tools, or the ways through which we can collect our data. So these two terminology is totally different in the research process. So some research fail because of less information or method. As I talked about these issues in the previous lecture, that in the research proposal we have to be detailed. We have to give enough information about every aspect of the research proposal, because we are not going with the proposal, and proposal is sent to the organization or to the donor. Everything should be clearly stated, and the mind should be clear about anything that you mention in the research proposal. It means that in each sentence or in each issue, you have to ask yourself how and why, what, how and why and what. Everything should be clear. You should not ask how. You should not be asked that what, why, and how. These things should be enough clear in the research process. It means that we have to give enough information about the different aspects of the research proposal. In the methodology and method, we should be enough clear which kind of methodology we are going to use for this research in order to successfully achieve, and which methods, how we can do. So, as I mentioned to you guys before, that we can separate methodology from the method in the research proposal, and it should be two parts of the research proposal, or we can bring it combined, no problem here. So we should specify the methodology and methods. Which kind of methodology I'm going to conduct, and which kind of method I'm going to use in order to collect my data. So methodology means qualitative, quantitative, and mixed. And methods is, for example, you're using questionnaire, you are using interview, you are conducting observation, you are, for example, doing survey. So you can do focus group, whatever you are going to do in order to collect the data, that's called method. Because we have specific methods for qualitative and specific methods for quantitative. So to do this, in order to be clear, and the doer should be clear, the organization should be clear, So we have to answer the following questions. To answer the following question can helps us to be very clear about the methodology and methods of the research proposal. The first question is, why have you decided upon your methodology? Why you choose qualitative or why you choose quantitative? What is the reason for you to choose qualitative and quantitative? We discussed already qualitative and quantitative, but simply I can say to you that methodology, which is qualitative, we are going to have a less participant in order to collect our data because we are conducting an interview based on the open-ended question and we have less population. And if our aim is not to generalize the data, and whenever our aim is to generalize, we should conduct the quantitative. So we have to give specific reason for choosing our methodology. Beside this, why do you decide to use these particular methods? For example, why you are using, for example, close-ended question. So we have to give reason that I choose the quantitative methodology, and for the quantitative I need to have close-ended question because it's not time consuming. So we have to come up with specific reason for the methods that we are using in our research. So the very next point is, why are other methods not appropriate? You have to talk about other methods. For example, if you choose that you are using questionnaire or open-ended questions, so then you need to give information why other methods, why for example interview, why for example observation, why survey is not an appropriate methods of collecting data. So we have to give enough information about why other methods or ways of collecting data is not an appropriate. So beside this, we have to talk about very important thing which is called sampling number of the people. How many people do you want to involve or participant you want to involve in your research? So we have to be enough clear about the number of the people. But one thing we have to keep it in mind based on our own situation. So instead of 10 participants, please list 15 or 20 participants, because on the day of your collecting data there might be any problem for some people that are not participating in your research. You should not postpone your project for the next day. So because you are very fixed, and the fixed day you have to do your own job. So if someone is not coming or couldn't coming to your not coming to you on that day and or facing with the problem, so you can have a substitute person you can call and contact him, and that will come and you can collect your data. So the last thing is method of method of data collection, analysis, and ethical consideration. We have to talk about the collecting of data, how we can collect it, where we can collect it, how we can analyze it, and we have to think about the validity and reliability of the data of the people, of the society or community. So when you are clear with the methodology and method, then you need to move for the next step, which is called timetable. As research project and research job is very fixed, and you should be bound to the timetable. For the research proposal, when you need to develop different timetable for different tasks and responsibility that you are going to do during your research. For example, you need to provide different schedules. For example, you need to have a specific timetable for background research. Whatever you are going to do, the background research, the day, the time, the location should be clear. So you have to, for example, make the timetable number first. For example, Sunday, for example, the date, and should be the time, how much time you want to use and how many days you want to use. You have to have a specific and clear timetable for literature review. Whenever you are going to construct questionnaire, for example, the day should be clear, because the donor might call you on that day that you mentioned your timetable that in this day and this time I'm going to work on the questionnaire. So you need to have a clear timetable for the questionnaire. For example, for the interview, if you are going to interview 10 participants, so you need to have the timetable. For example, on Saturday I'm going to interview Ahmad, and time, for example, 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock. So remarks, you can have your own way to develop the timetable for the interview. The next thing, when you collect the data, you have to have a specific, for example, timetable. For example, if you want to conduct a research, for example, in Nangarhar University, and 13 faculties, you need to have the timetable. For example, in this day I'm going to go there, and literature faculty, in this day I'm going to go the medical faculty or engineer faculty. You need to have a clear timetable for collecting of your data. So then you need to have another timetable for the data analysis. When you collect the data, when you have done with your data, then you need to have another timetable for data analysis. When you analyze the data, when you, for example, separate relevant data from irrelevant data, how you can analyze it, you need to talk about that, and you need to develop the timetable. And the last thing is reporting. When you report, or when you are working on reporting, there should be a specific timetable. So keep it in mind that late is a problem. So in the research process, we have to do everything in its own date and time. Whenever you are done with the timetable or with every other things, whenever you are done with different timetables for different things that you are going to do it different, the research process, so then move to the next part of the research proposal, which is called budget and resources. Budget and resources is the most important aspect of the research process, because without budget you couldn't go ahead. So this is very important to have a clear budget plan for different things that you are using different research process. So for this, you need to think about what you need in your research, what you need during your research. For example, the table. You need a desk and table for the interview, for the focus group, or for doing your own tasks, for reporting. So besides, you need to think about other things that you use during your research process. For example, computer, recorder, cassettes and tape, battery, pen, stationery, travel expenses. So everything should be clearly stated with the budget, with the cost, in order to grasp the attention of the donor organization. The budget plan should be very clear, and you need to have a clear timetable or clear cost plan for the things that you use during your research process. So whenever you are done and you provide a clear list of the thing with the cost, so then you need to move for the last part of your research proposal, which is called dissemination or publication. How you can publish it, and how you can spread it, how you can share it with other people. For example, if your goal or aim is to only the students should access my materials, then you can publish it. After the publication, when your material and your research is successfully done and you publish it, put it in the library that everyone can have access to that. And the soft, you can add it to the internet that everyone can use it and utilize your materials. If you want to share it with other people, you can go through the reports. You have to report your data, you have to report it to the different TVs or different other magazines or books. Besides this, you can make the oral presentation for the public awareness. You can make a conference, you can invite people, and then you can present your data. What was the problem, how you solved that, and what is the data, what is the finding, what changes would be occur, the importance of the problem to the people. Beside this, you can add it to the specific website in order that people can have access, or students can have access for that and use it for their own researches. The last thing is that you are writing a journal article. You can publish it in different magazines, newspapers, and let people to use your research and solve their own problem, and it become a resource. If you have any question, let me know. You have my address. You can post or you can send me your question and you will certainly receive your answers. Thank you very much for watching and for your keen attention.